You shoot log footage to preserve all the details in your shadows and highlights, and then you apply a conversion LUT which pushes your footage into the clipping. Makes no sense at all, right? I will explain later in this video why log to Rec.709 LUTs very often destroy your footage, but first I'll show you how easy professional log conversion is with our log Neutralizer plugin. Just drag and drop the effect to your clip. This works the same way in Premiere, After Effects and Final Cut Pro X. Even in Photoshop you find the plugin in the filter menu. Then open the user interface and the plugin automatically analyzes the current frame of your footage. That's already a great starting point for your color grading, and you could simply apply the correction by closing Log Neutralizer. But if you want to go one step further, you can make some fine adjustments to the log conversion. With high and low color you can determine how many of the lightest and darkest colors are included in the calculation for the neutralization. The two vertical lines mark your settings in the histogram. You can use the filmic slider to define the extent to which your highlights and shadows can be clipped. If you choose more extreme high or low color settings, I recommend that you always move the filmic slider all the way to the right. This way, high and low color only change the colors in the image but not the contrasts, so no colors will be clipped. If highlights or shadows are clipped too hard, despite the filmic slider being fully on the right side, you can bring back all the details in the image by adjusting the black and white points. The settings from the far left to the default value where the marker is located control the settings from the original black and white point of the image up to the value where 0.1% of all pixels have been reached. To the right, this figure can be increased up to 10%. Finally, you can use the gamma slider to adjust the brightness, and often log footage is also somewhat unsaturated, which can be compensated by the bottom slider. If your brightness in your scene changes and you would prefer to optimize the log neutralizer setting to a different frame, you can simply open the user interface and press the Analyze button. The plugin will then save the current histogram and all calculations will be based on this frame. Finally, a brief explanation of why you should never use LUTs for log conversion. LUT stands for Lookup Table. This is a table where an output RGB value is defined for each input RGB value. A certain color and brightness value is therefore always converted to the same target value, regardless of how your footage is exposed. So what is the problem? Let's take a look at the histogram of the log footage and what the ideal conversion makes of it. This is the darkest value in the original image. This becomes black. Maybe you want to allow a little bit clipping in favor of a more contrasty image. Then maybe it will be this value that becomes black. Accordingly, this value becomes white, and the intermediate values on the histogram are distributed in between. You could now export a LUT up here that does exactly this conversion. By the way, there's a separate video about the toolbar, so I won't go into other functions now. LUT export from Log Neutralizer only makes sense if you want to apply it to the same footage, but not if you want to apply it to other footage, even if it comes from the same camera. Now we come to the important part. What happens if the next scene from the same camera has a slightly brighter exposure? The Log Neutralizer plugin would analyze the histogram and the conversion of the colors would look like this. However, if you apply the LUT that you have just exported, the conversion will be rigid. This color will therefore always become white, even if it is in the middle of the histogram of your footage. As a result, all brighter colors will be clipped and large parts of your image will be burned out. Here is a practical example. This is Aria Alexa Log C footage, and when I select this as a camera LUT, half of the image burns out. As you can see, even the LUTs stored in the video program destroy your footage. This is not a Final Cut phenomenon either, the same thing happens in Premiere Pro. Converting log footage with LUTs is therefore extremely dangerous. For comparison, with Log Neutralizer the result looks like this, and the sky still has details, so you have a perfect starting point for your color grading. With Log Neutralizer you take advantage of why you film log, meaning you have full control over your highlights and shadows. Log Neutralizer makes the log workflow real fun. Conversion is trouble-free and all post-processing options are open to you.